It's Tuesday morning in Lagos. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the program. I am Nifemi Okuntoye. We witnessed the first major shakeup in President Tinubu's cabinet yesterday with the suspension of one of the youngest ministers in this administration, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu. And this is following controversies about financial transactions she authorized in her ministry. Dr. Edu has come under criticism from Nigerians for ordering the transfer of 585.2 million naira into the private bank account of a civil servant who was the accountant in charge of grants for vulnerable Nigerians. The minister had issued a memo to the Accountant General of the Federation in December last year, ordering the said amount to be paid into the civil servant's private bank account. We have some update for you in this report.
After the suspension of the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, she was denied access to President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa. This vehicle took her out of the villa as she was unable to meet the president. Betta Edu's suspension was announced in a statement by the presidential spokesman, Anjuri Ngelale, following her alleged involvement in the approval of 585 million naira to a personal account.
And the president is going to ensure that nothing at all will get in the way of that investigation being conducted in a fair and transparent manner and in a way that Nigerians would have a full confidence that whatever conclusion is arrived at is based only on the merits of the investigation.
The president directed the EFCC chairman, Ola Olukoyede, to conduct a thorough investigation into all aspects of financial transactions involving the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. These are the reactions from Nigerians.
Corruption is in Nigeria. There are no exceptions. Young, old, male, female. Everybody is involved. And the critique of yesteryears are those in government today. And unfortunately, what they once criticize are the same thing they do today.
If not because of the patriotic work by EFCC, they would have just kept quiet, just like in the past administration. This kind of situation were happening and some people just decided to keep quiet. This time around, the leadership of EFCC and ICPC are out there to ensure sanity, in our governance system.
And this is how the Office of the Humanitarian and Poverty Affairs looks like after the suspension of the minister. Her last post on X is the 5th of January. What is the task of the coordinating minister of the Economy and Finance? The president directed Wale Edun to conduct a comprehensive diagnostic on the financial architecture and framework of social investment programs, reform relevant institutions to eliminate institutional frailties, and win back the public confidence.
And news just reaching us now, the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, has arrived at the headquarters of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in Abuja. I recall that he was invited by the anti-graft agency yesterday, shortly after the news of a suspension broke. I'm joined now for conversations and reactions to this latest development. Jacob Pele is Policy Development Analyst. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. Dr. Charles Marindoti Oludare is convener, Social Rehabilitation Grace and Support Initiative. It seems we invited you because of your name, Marindoti. Thank you for joining us on the program. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us as well. All right, Dr. Pele, the suspended minister was at the villa yesterday to see the president, and it was there actually she learned about her suspension. That meeting didn't hold, and then she got invited by the EFCC. We're hearing that she's arrived at the EFCC headquarters as we speak in Abuja. What do you make of this development?
My brother, Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to your viewers. Let me start by, if I can, I would have done it physically, taking my hats off for the president. Mr. President have done something that I'm very proud of him, and I can say that, yes, this is the president that is willing to work. Mind you, if anybody follows my intervention, I don't try to sort of, talk about people except they have something to be talked about. And this president has shown that he's ready to work. Let me sound a note of warning that I don't know Mr. President, I haven't met him in person, but if anybody takes this man for granted, that person will have himself or herself to be blamed, because this is going to be the move that he will be making, especially if he wants to write his name on the sand of time, which I believe he wants to. This is very, very good for President Bola Tinubu. This is commendable. It's something that people like me will stand and support. This is what a leader should do when there is crisis. And bravo, Mr. President. Having said that, let me say that I've always said it. I've always called, and that's the difference. Let me make a comparative analysis. Now, former president was aware that the former minister of this same ministry was going through ICPC and was being investigated for 2.6 billion or thereabout, and she was allowed to stay in the office while that investigation was ongoing. This is a contrast. We're seeing a different president who feels that that shouldn't happen and have taken a concrete, commendable action by asking the person that is being investigated to step aside. That's the difference between, and I think the communication people around Tinubu should frame this narrative, because that's a clear-cut difference between him and the former president. Bravo to Nigerians, because this is the kind of leader we need to ensure that people are held accountable. There's a whole lot of rot in Ministry of Humanitarian, which I have tagged on humanitarian.
Let us attempt to dig deeper. 4 months ago, I asked Dr. Betta Edu how she intends to clean up the corruption with a conditional cash transfer, and here's how that conversation went. All eyes are now on the National Social Investment. All eyes are now on the National Social Investment programs designed by the previous administration to lift families out of poverty, and how it will be implemented under your leadership. It seems, from all indications, it's been adopted by this government. But some have criticized, for instance, the conditional cash transfer and even the homegrown school feeding program. They say the lack of transparency. Some even claim the programs have become some sort of a conduit pipe for corrupt officials to steal public funds. You have talked about reaching out to 15 million poor and vulnerable households through the conditional cash transfer. What will you be doing differently?
Okay, so one of the innovations which we're bringing in first is that on that social register, we are going to verify, validate, and expand it to accommodate more persons in the National Social Register, and then from which we are going to get beneficiaries based on which intervention. Of course, we have said, working with the World Bank, we would be seeking approval from the federal government to begin the cash transfer to Nigerians. That would, the full information on that will come after we've gotten the clearance from the Federal Executive Council, probably next week. But what is most important is that we want to increase the social safety net for Nigerians. We want to be able to pull millions of Nigerians out of poverty, and we're going to do it in a transparent manner. We are going to count the numbers together. You know the way, like I told them last time during when we had the management meeting, I say, you know the way they count COVID cases and COVID death associated with COVID and all of that? That's the same way we'll count the number of people we have been able to reach per day, per month, per time, and Nigerians would verify on their own, independent of the ministry, whether this has been truly done or not. We're going to digitalize the system, so it's
hold you to account to that promise
the banks to the beneficiaries without necessarily going through middlemen. But where that is not possible, for a very small percentage, we'll be flexible enough to ensure that everyone benefits from it and no one is left behind.
All right, so that was the conversation with the suspended minister 4 months ago. And Dr. Oludare, she did say that the process will be digitalized with money sent directly from banks to beneficiaries without middlemen. But in that conversation, she also mentioned that she will be flexible in some cases. So is that the possibility here of someone whose intention is to bypass the long bureaucracy of government in order to get the job done right in time?
No, because, and thanks for that question. No, because I don't think there's any hurry to get money out to people. This is not a short burst thing. This should not be a quick fix thing. This should be a long-term thing that should last for eternity. And I know a lot of people, because of, the former minister, I think was 37 billion, the social investment program coordinator, maybe 44 billion. And this one, a lot of people have suggested that maybe this whole program should be scrapped. I would say, on the contrary, it should not be, because it is an essential part of, social investment. When you think about it, it also helps the economy. And people, they do it out here too. We have like the Women, Infant and Child in the United States, where poor people can go and get, life support. I believe that, one thing that I would want to suggest, because we are talking about this particular program and cash transfer, is that cash is nebulous. It's something that you can't hold on to. I believe that there should be a particular restructuring of this program, whereby, the president stops giving Bola cash and starts giving Bola card. Because, and let me spell it. You should stop giving BALLER cash, CASH, and start giving BOLA. They can call it Bridge Outreach for Life Assistance card, whereby people can take it and go and use it to buy things that are necessary, like food, not cook, not drink. I have someone that is close to me that if you give him money, you use it to buy beer. If you give him money, you use it to gamble. You don't want them to use 20,000 naira to do all of those things. And these people might qualify. So that is why the only way to do it is to give them a card that they can take. And it will be a long-term thing. It has to be, a lot of work. You give them a card that they can take to food sellers who will have card readers, whereby you can buzz your card. This whole social investment thing, even when it comes to like the distribution of palliatives, rice and all, we have COVID rice that are still rotting in, warehouses that, nobody can benefit from. You can give all this what's it called, stuff to food sellers who will have card readers, and people will apply. People's point of application can be their churches, the hospitals and everything. This program is very essential, including the food program that the president just brought back, because these are ways for you to keep people in schools. So it is always very disheartening, when I see people who are supposed to be held in public trust, abusing it, especially when it comes to the vulnerable. I'll tell a brief story. When I was a final year medical student, I organized the concert in OAU where I invited Davido, YQ, and Sam Clef, and we called it Feed the Kid. And the reason why we did that was because, after my pediatric posting, I realized that majority of the children living with HIV in Nigeria are just suffering from malnutrition. So we tried to come up with this program to help raise money, just to help them. And one of the reasons why these children even have HIV is because they are forced to feed on breast milk that is infected, because Nigeria as a country cannot afford to feed them. And I want to mention that, I organized the concert with a man called Ife. He is the current APC flag bearer in the by-election coming next month in Ondo State. I think people should vote for him because he's a good man. These programs are very essential. We need to eliminate any loophole, especially when it comes to giving cash. There should be a cessation of cash, and we can create cards that people can be using on a regular basis. Once they apply, You cannot just go out and be looking for people. You can do a lot of outreach for people to know that there is a way for you to come and get this Bola card, and you can use it to buy food, to buy oil, and all of that. We have people in the IDP camps that giving them cash will not help them. You can cook food for them. This is a part of what they should be doing in that ministry, not embezzling money.
Well, Dr. Ludari, I hope you're not planning to take Dr. Edu's job, because he came quite prepared with an alternative plan for, the cash transfer, particularly with your Bola card. But I'm just kidding. Mr. Epele, quickly, the president has tasked a panel led by the coordinating minister of the economy and minister of finance to, among other things, conduct a comprehensive diagnostic of the financial architecture and framework of our social investment programs. So when you look at what has happened in the past few days, 2 ministers, both past and present, currently being probed by the EFCC, there must be something fundamentally wrong with the operations of this ministry. Do you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. Unfortunately, Betta should have known better when she inherited a ministry that she probably did not take time and take a cursory look at the rot around the ministry. Civil servants, not all civil servants are bad, but there are some very bad ones that can really lead you into trouble, especially if they can prey on your greed. Once you show any element that you're interested in making money, they will create all kinds of very illegal vehicle that can run you into trouble and run you out of town. While we are looking at all of the rot that Betta inherited and how she plunged herself into this very, very grievous mistakes, which she shouldn't have done, knowing fully well how smart she is, However, we need to also go backward, because sometimes to describe the future, you need to go back, We need to go back to the former minister that really, really cleaned out. And there were a lot of allegations that she's carrying, We need to find out how she's doing it. But if I go direct to your question, if I'm the Minister of Finance, I will put a pause to everything and immediately launch a forensic audit so that you know what happened, who is with what. These figures that we're talking about, I guarantee you, especially the former minister, has a lot to account for. And it is not 37 point something billion. I think it may be more than that, because you're talking about 2.6 billion that she didn't account for. You're talking about $523 million that she didn't account for. You're talking about 37.1. That's the one we know. There are several others that she needs to be held accountable. And going to the current, the minister that is under suspension. Go ahead.
The issue with the former minister is well, stated. And, we've seen all of the allegations with the EFCC. But how much of a crime would you say has been committed here with the current minister? Because the Accountant General of the Federation did say her agency advised the ministry on the appropriate steps to take in making such payments in line with the established payment procedure. What would think maybe this was an honest error, and then the AGF did correct the ministry on how to, go about it, except we're saying this money indeed was disbursed?
There's nothing like an honest error. An error is an error. And let's look at it, and I'm going to be very objective, There's a whole lot there's a whole lot of mistake that she made. And hopefully she will be honest to come out. And Nigerians are forgiving people to say, look, I'm sorry, I goofed. Let me begin. One, it's now obvious that the Accountant General advised her not to pay money into a private account. After that advice, why did she continue to do that? Why is it that she went ahead to pay money into somebody's private account? Now, that contravenes the Financial Act of 2009, I believe, I may be accurate in my quoting, the chapter 6, subsection 619, made it very clear that you cannot pay public funds into a private account. Chapter 7, I believe subsection 718 or 713, I'm not too clear, but any of those. 713, fantastic. 713 made it very clear and made it a criminal offense and codenamed it fraudulent. You know, I expect the suspended honorable ministers to have been guided, properly guided, you know. Now, this issue of argument of, oh, she had good intention and all that, you may have good intention, all right, but the law doesn't forgive you even if you break the law with your good intention. Now, let me look at some of our arguments, and I'm trying to be very objective, okay? The argument is, oh, there are vulnerable groups, which I belong to that community, that don't have bank account. So we wanted to pay the money into a private account and then help them to open an account. Oh, come on, Betta. That argument doesn't hold because, you know, if you know that you wanted to help them open an account, you would have helped them first open an account before you start disbursing the funds. Secondly, you can't say that you will pay $500 million, over $500 million into my account, and that I have the financial system to start transferring money to how many individuals? That's unthinkable. She should have known better never to delve into this. And it's somebody that I have a lot of respect for. One of the guys, one of the ministers that I saw was going to be a star minister. And she had just bundled it. I hope she would, in her stead, I will come out clean and said, I have made a mistake and move on. Hopefully, Nigerians and the present government will forgive her and probably she will come back. But however, she has a lot to answer. And it would be in her best interest to answer those things honestly and accurately. Stop making excuses. Leaders don't make excuses. They execute. And that's what President Bola Tinubu had done.
Indeed. Dr. Oludare, so attention is turned now to Section 173 of the Financial Regulations Act of 2009. And it states clearly that personal money shall by no circumstances be paid into a government bank account, nor shall any public money be paid into a private account. It also added that any officer who pays public money into a private account is deemed to have, done so with fraudulent intention. Now that we've had the president directing EFCC chairman to conduct a thorough investigation, what's your expectation in this regard vis-a-vis what we've seen in the past? Because usually this, turns into the appointment of another person and then it goes to court and the courting gradually draws on this until it happens again.
Yeah, to me personally, let me first start with, I want to address one thing that Dr. Ipele said. With all due respect, sir, I vehemently disagree with Nigerians forgiving because I believe the way we got to this place is because Nigerians are too forgiving. Human beings learn by operant conditioning. It is the result of what we have done that informs our next decision. So if we forgive, then we have given another person the right to do it and ask for forgiveness. I want to, really applaud the president for not, hesitating, not prevaricating, swinging the hammer. I think he has been Mr. Manidoti #1 because he did not allow this thing on his administration. And, when it comes to, the Section 173, like you mentioned, ignorance is no excuse in the court of law. Just if I would want to, as an improvement of system, advise that maybe every ministry should have an ethics office that whereby all these things, all the decisions go through before they go out, just to prevent it. But, there's one very thing, especially when we look at the history of what has been going on in this, department or this ministry. There's one thing that the new EFCC chairman asked for, which is the ability to freeze funds. This is a very, very essential, weapon in the hands of EFCC, because you cannot allow someone steal your money and then they still have access to the benefits of that booty. No, you should deprive them of it. In the United States, they call it Bank Secrecy Act, whereby even any transaction above a threshold gets reported to the, tax collecting committee, IRS. We have FIRS because the government has an interest in collecting taxes. So if they can prove that you did not legitimately, earn this money, they freeze your assets, and then you can prove later. All these ministers should have had all their assets, all liquid and real, frozen, because you have to, while the case is going on, they've not forfeited it, but you've frozen it. So because you have to deprive them of the benefits of, that corrupt activity that they have done. This will be a very useful tool in preventing majority of grafts that occurs in Nigeria, because quite frankly this is shameful and this is painful when you think about, especially this. I mean, people are just heartless. You sit down here in the United States sometimes eating food and you feel guilty that why do I have access to this, and you have children who are dying in the hospitals because they cannot have food. We have marasmus kwashiorkor is still a problem in Nigeria. Adults cannot afford to feed their children. There are so many times people will call you crying that they can't find food for their children. And we have people who feel they have a right to just misappropriate that food. I mean, I'm sorry I'm getting to prevent this from reoccurring. It has to be a one and done thing for all public office holders. Any cash transaction should be monitored. The banks should be made liable to report it, otherwise they get a penalty. If you make a transaction of above 10,000 naira into my account in the United States and you don't report it to the IRS and the banks don't report it, they get a fine of about 3 million. So they have to, and then the tax committees will know this, and then they can follow up, and then they can refer you to EFCC, whatever they want to do. Because I am telling you, this thing has to stop, and we have to show no mercy. There is no opportunity for a second time. I mean, for a second, try. You only get a one chance to first impression. Yeah, once you mess it up, you should go away.
All right, Mr. Epele, quickly, let's look at the implication of this development. First, it's important that we get this to a logical conclusion, because at best it is an allegation, and we're looking forward to see the investigation done by the anti-graft agency and also actually, find out what really happened. But what's the implication of this development on, for instance, the young people and the participation of the women folk in government? The last time Mr. President was signing the 2024 appropriation bill into act, a picture of him and those around him was shared online, and someone was asking, are there no women in Nigeria? This is one of the youngest ministers, in this cabinet. She's perhaps the only female minister to have come from our state. What implication do you see this have, and how important is it to have it driven to a logical conclusion, because of these other elements involved?
Well, it's important that we don't attach this to women in leadership position. This is just one woman. What about several other men who have also messed up the opportunity? What about older people who have also messed up an opportunity?
Unfortunately, Mr. Epele, there are 3 women involved. Just to get the numbers right, if you count the former minister and the CEO, the CEO of the NSPA.
I agree. I agree, but it shouldn't stop our, he for she. It shouldn't stop our advocacy and agitation for women to be given a place to serve. We are talking about just 3 women. There are several men in, and I'm not making excuses. Anybody that violates the law or is corrupt should go down with it. I'm not making excuses for that, but it shouldn't be, let's not generalize it and to say that every other woman is not like that. I'm not saying you're saying so. I'm saying for the interest of the public and the people that are discussing this kind of issue. You understand? Having said that, it's not a good thing for the women folk. There's no doubt about that. But she's not the only woman. And there are several other women in the cabinet that I believe also will learn from this and do better. And there are also several other young people who have not been given the opportunity that would be given such opportunity, and they will do well. And knowing fully well that from experience, they have seen what has happened to Dr. Betta. Unfortunately, she's become the scapegoat, and she's paying the price. Hopefully, she would, what is happening to her will serve as a deterrent to other people. But I also want to touch on what Doctor said. I'm a Christian. I believe in forgiveness. And I am a bundle of fault myself, you know. And when people make mistake, where I have issues is when you make mistake and you fail to take responsibility for that mistake. Then I know that you're somebody that will never, ever change. I believe that if at the end of this exercise, that there are aspects that she did without the intention to commit fraud, and the people around her, I mean, she can be forgiven. Why not? You know, I don't speak for her, but she needs to come clean and let people know where she has made mistake. And even if she's not forgiven for this position, she can be forgiven for other positions. Betta has a huge potential around her, and we cannot throw away the baby and the bathwater. You understand? I'm not making a case for her, but I'm just being very objective.
Accusation of what some consider a serious crime. It is not a conviction, which is a formal declaration, you know, of guilt by, you know, the verdict of a jury. So the president has called for a full investigation, and it's important that we note that at best, you know, this is an indictment, not a conviction. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll continue this conversation and also open the phone lines to hear from you. Stay with us, everyone.